There comes a moment in every person's life when the crowd disappears. The applause fades, the advice becomes silent, and the path ahead looks empty. In that moment, you discover whether your dream belongs to the world or to you. If your purpose is borrowed from others, it will collapse when they walk away. But if it is born within you, it will stand even when you must walk alone. Self-belief over external approval means choosing your own conviction above the opinions of the crowd. Most people measure their worth by how loudly others praise them. Yet approval is a weak foundation because it changes with every mood and every season. The mind that depends on applause becomes confused when silence arrives. The individual who builds faith inside does not require permission to move forward. Confidence is not borrowed. It is created through decision and reinforced through action. When you decide that your vision is valid before anyone else agrees, you step into personal authority. External approval often comes too late and disappears too fast. Today's encouragement can become tomorrow's doubt. Those who wait for agreement will remain stuck at the gate of their own potential. The world does not reward hesitation. It rewards certainty. A person who trusts their own direction gains an advantage because their energy is not divided between their purpose and the need to please others. Every great advance begins with one mind willing to stand alone with an idea and defend it through effort. Self-belief is built through repeated proof to oneself. Each small promise kept strengthens the inner voice. Each task completed without recognition teaches the mind that progress does not require witnesses. The habit of finishing what you start forms a silent agreement between you and your future. This agreement becomes stronger than fear and louder than criticism. When doubt appears, it finds no space because your record of action answers it. Those who seek approval often change direction to match popular opinion. In doing so, they dilute their purpose. A divided mind cannot achieve a definite result. The mind that is certain creates clarity, and clarity attracts opportunity. When you trust your own judgment, you become consistent. Consistency produces momentum. Momentum produces results. Results eventually attract attention, but by then, approval is no longer the goal. The inner world shapes the outer world. If the inner world is ruled by other people's expectations, the outer world becomes a prison of comparison. True freedom begins when you accept responsibility for your own belief. You are not required to prove your dream to those who cannot see it. Vision belongs to the one who carries it. The crowd often sees only what already exists, while the believer sees what is possible. Fear of rejection weakens initiative. The person who fears being misunderstood will never attempt what is uncommon. Progress demands a willingness to appear foolish before appearing successful. The mind that trusts itself does not fear isolation, because it understands that solitude is a workshop where strength is formed. In silence, thought becomes sharper. In independence, decision becomes stronger. Self-belief also requires discipline of thought. You must guard your mind against discouraging voices, including your own. Repetition of confident ideas creates mental pathways of courage. What you tell yourself daily becomes your truth. When you repeat that your effort matters, your actions follow that command. When you repeat that you are capable, your behavior rises to match the idea. External approval is temporary, but internal belief compounds over time. Each challenge faced without surrender adds weight to your character. Each obstacle overcome without praise builds endurance. You begin to act not because others expect you to, but because you expect it of yourself. This expectation becomes a standard, and the standard becomes your identity. A person with self-belief does not wait for the world to change. They change their attitude first. They accept that loneliness is sometimes part of leadership, and that resistance is often a sign of originality. When you depend on your own approval, you become steady in uncertain conditions. You do not abandon your purpose when criticism arrives, and you do not lose direction when compliments fade. The greatest power of self-belief is that it places control back into your hands. You are no longer ruled by trends, opinions, or permission. You move because you have decided to move. You persist because you have decided to persist. The inner decision becomes the source of outward strength, and the habit of trusting yourself becomes the foundation upon which achievement is built. Discipline in silence means working without the need to announce your effort or display your struggle. It is the practice of improvement away from attention, where no applause interrupts the process and no recognition distracts the purpose. Silence is no weakness. It is a controlled environment where focus grows stronger. When you remove the desire to be seen, you remove pressure to perform for others and replace it with commitment to perform for yourself. Many people work only when someone is watching. Their energy depends on visibility, and their motivation fades when no one is present. True discipline does not require an audience. It operates by routine rather than emotion. It wakes up when comfort suggests staying still. It continues when excitement disappears. The quiet worker builds strength in habits, not in moments of inspiration. Silence teaches patience. In a noisy world, progress feels slow because comparison speeds everything up. Discipline in silence accepts that growth takes time and that mastery develops through repetition. When you practice in private, mistakes are teachers instead of embarrassments. You can refine your skills without fear of judgment. This freedom creates honesty with yourself, and honesty creates improvement. The silent path is often misunderstood. Others may think nothing is happening because nothing is being displayed. Yet the unseen effort is usually the most powerful. Like roots beneath the soil, the real work is hidden before it is revealed. Those who rush to show results before they are formed weaken their foundation. Those who wait until the structure is solid stand longer. Discipline without noise also protects the mind. Praise can inflate ego, and criticism can poison confidence. Silence shields you from both. You become less reactive and more deliberate. Instead of adjusting your pace to public opinion, you adjust it to your purpose. Each day becomes an agreement between you and your goal, not between you and the crowd. Working in silence builds self-respect. You know what you have done, even if no one else knows. This knowledge becomes a private source of pride. It is stronger than compliments because it is based on truth. You do not need to exaggerate effort because you feel it in your consistency. You do not need to defend your progress because you trust it. Discipline in silence also removes excuses. When no one is watching, there is no performance to maintain, only work to complete. You face your weaknesses directly because there is no image to protect. This creates responsibility. Responsibility strengthens character. Character stabilizes action. Over time, the habit of showing up without noise becomes automatic. The quiet routine forms mental endurance. You learn to push through boredom, not just difficulty. Boredom is the test of discipline because it offers no reward and no threat. It simply challenges your commitment. When you continue anyway, you prove to yourself that your purpose is stronger than your mood. This proof accumulates and becomes confidence. Silence also sharpens direction. Without constant feedback from others, you learn to listen to your own judgment. You measure success by improvement, not by reaction. This prevents distraction and keeps the mind aligned with long-term goals. Instead of chasing validation, you chase refinement. Those who master discipline in silence are rarely surprised by success. When results appear, they feel familiar because the work has already been done in private. The public sees a sudden rise, but the individual recognizes years of steady effort. The contrast between hidden labor and visible achievement confuses observers, but it strengthens the achiever. In silence, effort becomes identity. You are no longer someone who tries, you are someone who practices. You are no longer someone who hopes, you are someone who prepares. This shift changes how challenges are faced. Obstacles become part of routine rather than interruptions. Fatigue becomes a signal to adjust, not to quit. Discipline in silence is the training ground of independence. It teaches the mind to act without permission and to continue without reward. It replaces motivation with structure and replaces excitement with reliability. Over time, this quiet discipline becomes a force that does not need attention to function and does not need approval to continue. Persistence without witnesses is the decision to continue when no one is there to notice your effort. It is the strength that appears when encouragement is absent and recognition is delayed. Most people perform well when support surrounds them, but character is revealed when progress must be made in isolation. The mind that persists without witnesses learns to rely on purpose rather than praise. Many abandon their goals not because the task is too difficult, but because the attention has disappeared. They begin with enthusiasm when others are watching and lose momentum when the spotlight fades. Persistence without witnesses is different because it is rooted in commitment instead of excitement. It understands that real progress often happens in places where no applause exists. The habit of showing up quietly builds a form of endurance that cannot be taken away by criticism or neglect. When effort is unseen, doubt attempts to grow louder. D begins to ask whether the work is worth it and whether the struggle matters. Persistence answers these questions through action. Each small step taken without approval becomes a private victory. These victories accumulate into confidence that does not depend on anyone's opinion. The person who continues without witnesses proves to themselves that their purpose is stronger than their need for attention. Unseen persistence trains the mind to value consistency over recognition. It removes the desire to perform and replaces it with the desire to improve. In this state, mistakes are not feared because no audience waits to judge them. This freedom allows growth to happen naturally. You learn to adjust without embarrassment and to experiment without pressure. The absence of witnesses creates a safe space for discipline to develop. There is a quiet power in continuing when no one expects it. The world often assumes progress stops when visibility ends. Those who persist in silence surprise the future. Their preparation becomes a shield against failure because it was built without distraction. The work done in private becomes the strength displayed in public. What looks like sudden success is usually the result of long periods of unnoticed effort. Persistence without witnesses also strengthens patience. Without external validation, time feels slower. The days seem longer and results seem distant. This slowness teaches endurance. It trains the mind to respect process rather than demand instant reward. The individual who accepts this rhythm does not panic when progress feels invisible. They understand that growth is often happening beneath the surface before it appears above it. His kind of persistence reshapes identity. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who needs support to function, you begin to see yourself as someone who can stand alone with responsibility. You no longer depend on reminders or pressure to continue. The decision to persist becomes automatic. When obstacles appear, they are treated as part of the journey rather than as signals to stop. Loneliness often accompanies unseen effort. The absence of witnesses can feel like rejection, even when it is simply a lack of awareness. Persistence transforms loneliness into focus. Without noise, thought becomes clearer and intention becomes sharper. You begin to understand your own limits and your own strength. This understanding replaces fear with structure and replaces uncertainty with direction. Persistence without witnesses also builds trust in the future. You act today not for today's reaction, but for tomorrow's result. This requires faith in unseen outcomes. The person who can work without immediate reward develops a long-term mindset. They stop asking when success will arrive and start ensuring that they are ready when it does. There is discipline in continuing when no one asks you to. There is dignity in maintaining effort when no one is counting. This form of persistence teaches the mind to honor its own promises. Each day kept strengthens self-respect. Self-respect becomes the fuel that drives further effort. The cycle of effort and respect creates momentum that does not require attention to survive. The world celebrates visible effort, but it is the invisible effort that shapes real ability. The individual who persists without witnesses carries a private certainty that cannot be shaken by delay. They are not motivated by approval and not discouraged by silence. They continue because stopping would mean betraying their own intention. This loyalty to purpose becomes their advantage in every uncertain moment. Inner leadership and decision is the ability to command your own mind before attempting to direct the world. It begins with recognizing that every action is born from a choice, and every choice is born from a thought. The person who cannot lead their thoughts will be led by circumstances. When you assume control of your inner dialogue, you establish authority over your direction. This authority is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and rooted in responsibility. Most people allow their decisions to be shaped by fear, habit, or the opinions of others. They drift instead of decide. Inner leadership requires the courage to choose even when the outcome is uncertain. It means acting from purpose rather than pressure. A decision made with intention has weight, and that weight gives the mind stability. When you decide firmly, hesitation loses its influence. The mind begins to organize itself around that decision. Leadership within starts with self-discipline. You cannot command others if you cannot command your impulses. The ability to delay comfort in favor of progress is a form of inner rule. Each time you choose effort over ease, you strengthen your authority over yourself. This authority becomes a standard, and the standard becomes a pattern of behavior. Over time, the pattern becomes character. Decision is the turning point between desire and achievement. Desire alone remains a wish, but decision transforms it into a plan. When you decide, you close the door to retreat and open the path to movement. The mind responds to certainty by gathering resources. Energy aligns with purpose. Attention sharpens toward solution. The moment of decision may be silent, but its effects shape every following action. Inner leadership also requires emotional control. Emotions rise and fall, but direction must remain steady. The leader of the self does not wait to feel motivated before acting. They act and allow motivation to follow. This reverses the common pattern of delay. Instead of being ruled by mood, the mind is trained to obey instruction. This training creates reliability, and reliability creates trust within oneself. A person with inner leadership does not blame conditions for lack of progress. They accept that circumstances can influence speed but not direction. When obstacles appear, they do not question their purpose, they adjust their method. This flexibility is not weakness, it is strategic strength. Decision does not mean stubbornness, it means commitment to outcome while remaining open to improvement. Inner leadership also shapes identity. You begin to see yourself as the source of movement rather than as a victim of events. This shift removes helplessness and replaces it with initiative. Initiative generates confidence because it proves that action is possible even when certainty is absent. Each decision carried through builds evidence of capability. This evidence becomes belief, and belief reinforces future decisions. Without inner leadership, the mind becomes crowded with conflicting voices. Doubt argues with ambition. Fear argues with courage. Indecision creates exhaustion because energy is spent on struggle instead of external progress. When leadership is established within, these arguments quiet down. One direction replaces many options. Simplicity replaces confusion. The mind moves from debate to execution. Decision also protects time. When your direction is clear, distractions lose power. You recognize what supports your purpose and what delays it. This awareness allows you to say no without guilt and yes without hesitation. Time becomes a tool rather than a burden. Each hour is assigned meaning by the decision that guides it. Inner leadership grows stronger through practice. It is not inherited. It is built through repeated acts of choice. Each day offers opportunities to reinforce it through small commitments honored and small disciplines maintained. These moments may seem insignificant, but together they create structure. Structure provides stability, and stability supports ambition. The person who masters inner leadership does not wait for permission to begin. They accept that uncertainty is part of growth and that fear is a signal to prepare, not to retreat. Their decisions are not perfect, but they are deliberate. Deliberate action produces learning, and learning improves future decisions. When leadership is established within, external influence loses its control. Praise does not inflate direction, and criticism does not derail it. The individual remains anchored in purpose rather than reaction. This steadiness becomes their advantage in changing conditions and unpredictable environments. Inner leadership and decision create a foundation for all other strengths. Without them, effort is scattered and progress is accidental. With them, effort is focused, and progress becomes intentional. The ability to choose and to stand by that choice is the mark of personal authority and the source of lasting achievement. Faith in unseen results is the ability to continue working when evidence of progress has not yet appeared. It is the trust placed in effort before reward and in process before proof. Most people believe only what they can see, but those who achieve beyond the ordinary learn to see what does not yet exist. This form of faith is not blind hope, it is confidence grounded in action repeated over time. When effort is consistent, results are inevitable, even if they are delayed. The mind is easily discouraged when results are slow. It seeks immediate confirmation that its labor matters. When none arrives, doubt begins to whisper that the work is wasted and the direction is wrong. Faith in unseen results quiets this voice by remembering that growth is often hidden before it is revealed. Just as roots develop beneath the soil long before a tree is visible, progress often forms beneath the surface of awareness. This faith requires patience with time. Time does not move according to desire, but according to law. Seeds do not grow faster because they are watched, and goals do not arrive sooner because they are demanded. The person who understands this does not rush the process or abandon it prematurely. They treat each day of effort as a deposit in a future account, trusting that accumulation will bring return. Unseen results also train emotional control. When effort is not rewarded quickly, frustration attempts to take command. Faith keeps emotion from becoming a ruler. Instead of reacting to delay, the individual responds with persistence. They recognize that delay is not denial and that silence does not mean failure. The absence of visible progress becomes a test of loyalty to the goal. This kind of faith reshapes motivation. Instead of working for applause or recognition, the individual works for alignment with purpose. The reward becomes improvement itself. Each attempt sharpens skill. Each repetition strengthens discipline. These gains may not be visible to others, but they are felt internally. Internal progress becomes the fuel for continued action. Faith in unseen results also protects from comparison. When others appear to advance faster, the mind may question its own pace. Faith reminds the individual that every path has a different distance and every journey a different rhythm. Comparison measures surface, while faith measures depth. One person's quick rise may lack foundation, while another's slow climb builds endurance. The unseen phase is where character is formed. It is easy to believe when evidence surrounds you, but belief gains power when it exists without proof. In this stage, habits are created and standards are set. The individual learns to rely on structure rather than excitement and on consistency rather than mood. This creates stability that does not collapse when conditions change. Faith also strengthens vision. When the present offers little encouragement, the future must provide direction. The individual holds a picture of what can be and uses it as a guide for what must be done. This mental image becomes a compass. It does not remove difficulty, but it gives meaning to effort. Meaning transforms struggle into purpose. Unseen results demand discipline of thought. The D must be guarded against negative assumptions. Repeated failure to see immediate reward can create the belief that progress is not happening. Faith counters this by focusing on input rather than output. Instead of asking whether success has arrived, the individual asks whether the work has been done. This shift maintains momentum. Those who trust unseen results develop resilience. They learn to stand in uncertainty without retreat. When setbacks occur, they interpret them as information rather than as verdicts. Each obstacle becomes a signal to refine method, not to abandon aim. This attitude keeps movement alive even when outcomes are unclear. Faith in unseen results creates independence from circumstance. The individual does not wait for perfect conditions or visible signs before acting. They understand that action itself is the sign. Each step forward confirms belief. Over time, the unseen becomes visible. The effort that once appeared pointless reveals its purpose. The progress that seems slow proves its strength. The reward that was delayed arrives with greater impact